Barabara mpenzi mtazamaji, natumai alasiri yako inakuendea bomba Jumatatu hii ya tarehe 27 mwezi Januari mwaka 2025. Wakati mwingine na kuarifu taarifa za alasiri za Kurunzi Mashinani. Lensa Odingo atanisaidia kupeperisha taarifa hizi kwa ishara. Naomba tuandamane hadi tamati. Mtazamaji, wanachama wapya walioteuliwa kwa saili makamishna wa Tume Huru ya Uchaguzi na Mipaka IEBC waliapishwa leo asubuhi katika hafla iliyoongozwa na Jaji Mkuu Martha Koome. Profesa Adam Solo, Daktari Nelson Makanda, Balozi Koki Muli, Evans Misati, Nicodemus Bore Kipchirchir, Andrew Tanui Kipkoech na Linda Kiome waliapishwa, huku wanachama wawili Fatuma Saman na Carol Kituku wakikosa kufika kwa hafla hiyo.
Adams Olo.
Having been appointed as a member of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Selection Panel.
Akiongoza kuapishwa kwa wanachama 7 wa jopo hilo la usaili walioteuliwa na Rais William Ruto, Jaji Mkuu Martha Koome alitoa wito kwa jopo hilo kuwachagua maofisa waadilifu watakaokuwa na jukumu la kusimamia shughuli ya uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka 2027.
The future of our democracy depends on the integrity of the men and women you select to lead the IEBC. The commissioners you appoint must be individuals of untainted credibility.
Akielezea kutoridhika kwake na hali ya kutolewa kuwepo kwa makamishna wa IEBC ambayo imehujumu utendakazi wa tume hiyo kwa muda wa miaka 2 iliyopita, Koome alisema kuwa makamishna watakaoteuliwa ni sharti warejeshe imani na matumaini ya Wakenya. Jaji mkuu alionya dhidi ya kuingizwa siasa katika utaratibu wa uteuzi wa makamishna hao.
Your guiding principle must be merit and merit alone. The individuals you select must inspire confidence in the electoral process and uphold the values of transparency, accountability, and inclusivity. Kenyans are watching, and the trust they place in our institutions will be determined by the integrity of the choices you make, my brothers and sisters.
Kupitia gazeti rasmi la serikali leo, Rais William Ruto aliwateua Profesa Adam Solo, Dr. Nelson Makanda, Balozi Koki Muli, Evans Misati, Nicodemus Bore Kipchirchir, Andrew Tanui Kipkoech, Linda Kiome Gaki, Fatuma Saman na Carol Kituku kuwa wanachama wa jopo hilo la uteuzi. Saman na Kituku hata hivyo bado hawajafika kuapishwa. Joseph Wahungu, Kurunzi.
Na sasa tupate taarifa inayofungamana na siasa, ambapo chama cha National Labour kimekanusha madai kuwa kimebuni muungano na serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. Katibu mkuu wa chama hicho Omondi Oyo amekariri kuwa chama hicho bado kiko imara katika muungano wa Azimio la Umoja wa Kenya. Oyo kwa wakati huo huo alisifia uamuzi wa Mahakama Kuu ya Kiambu ambao imetoa mwelekeo kuhusu utaratibu wa kubuni Tume Huru ya Uchaguzi na Mipaka IEBC, akiongeza kuwa chama hicho kitaheshimu uamuzi wa Mahakama ya Rufani kuhusu swala hilo unaotarajiwa kutolewa tarehe mwishoni mwa mwezi huu.
That the Wiper Party leader has resorted to branding the National Liberal Party and Dr. Augustus Muli as projects of the Kenya Kwanza regime. Let us make it unequivocally clear, neither our party nor our party leader has ever been associated with the Kenya Kwanza government. We do not even know how they smell, and we are not even interested in working with them. We are in Azimio. It is a matter of a public record that the National Liberal Party is a proud constituent member of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. Such allegations are not only untrue, but are also unhelpful in fostering unity within the coalition. The National Liberal Party, in conclusion, remains steadfast in its commitment to democracy, fairness, and the rule of law.
Tukiachana na hayo, afisi ya mwanasheria mkuu inajizatiti kuondoa sheria zisizoambatana na katiba na zile zilizopitwa na wakati. Akiongea alipoongoza mkutano wa ushauriano na wenye viti na maafisa wakuu wa mashirika huru yaliyobuniwa chini ya afisi ya mkuu wa sheria, mwanasheria mkuu Dorcas Oduor alifichua kuwa ofisi hiyo inashirikiana na tume ya marekebisho ya sheria kuondoa mikinzano wa sheria. Alisema kuwa kufikia sasa sheria 100 ambazo haziambatani na katiba zimeangaziwa pamoja na nyingine 45 zilizopitwa na wakati. Oduor alitumia fursa hiyo kuhimiza ushirikiano na asasi nyingine za serikali kuhakikisha kuwa ajenda ya serikali inaambatana na sheria zilizoratibishwa kwenye katiba ya Kenya.
We want to use the Law Reform Commission to make sure that we harmonize the laws that we have. Some of the instances where we've been having conflicting laws is where you find that county governments are coming up with laws in the same subject matter where the national government already has a law. For example, in alcohol, licensing and everything. So we are working together with them, and we want the Kenya Law Reform Commission to take the lead in identifying these laws and dealing with them. Soon we'll be having a conference on dealing with all the laws that have been declared unconstitutional and all the laws that have been declared obsolete, so that we check whether or not they are fit for purpose. And for that reason, there's a need for us to come together to see how we feed onto each other and how we impact the society. Because things have now changed. You no longer need big offices and a lot of human resource. With technology and AI, there is a way that we can become effective and efficient.
There is no government agenda that progresses without the service, without the support of the Honorable the Attorney General's Office and Department of Justice. So the Attorney General's Office is aligned to what the government is dealing with.
Baadhi ya wadau katika sekta ya madini wanadai kuwa kuna njama ya kuhangaisha wenye biashara halali katika sekta ya madini. Daktari Patrick Kanyoro, ambaye ni mwenyekiti wa chama cha wenye biashara ya uchimbaji madini, anadai kuwa msako kwenye bohari lililoko kaunti ya Machakos ulikuwa mbinu ya kuhangaisha wenye biashara halali. Anadai kuwa wachimbaji madini, wakiwemo wale wanaohusika kwenye uchimbaji madini ya shaba nyekundu, mawe ya garnet, walikuwa wamedhihirisha madini walionayo kwa serikali. Wadau hao wanataka kuwe na mazungumzo ya kina na serikali, wakisisitiza kuwa madai dhidi ya wenye biashara halali wanachafua hadhi ya sekta hiyo mbali na kupotosha umma.
I want to be categorical that the material that is in that warehouse is a material that is known to government, and we have the evidence because government way back in July asked us to declare our stockpiles. They wanted to know how much we had, and it is the whole industry, I mean members or those who are active in the space of copper specifically, and green garnet, which is savorite, declared in good faith our stockpiles to the government. It is then unfortunate that the same government can come and purport to raid our storage facilities and talk about those minerals as illegal. They are not illegal.
The genesis of this issue is of a Gazette notice that was published in 3rd November 2023 by the government through the Ministry of Mining and Blue Economy. And this Gazette notice was in violation of Article 10, Article 129, and Article 232 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And also, it was in violation of Section 5, Section 8 of the Mining Act. And also, it was in violation of Regulation 10 of the Mining and Regulation Act 2017. And what our clients are saying is that this issue is in court and the government is aware.
Mtazamaji, wanachama wa makundi ya kutetea haki za raia katika kaunti ya Mombasa wanashutumu maafisa wa polisi kwa kuwakamata kiholela na kuwazuilia watetezi wa haki za kibinadamu. Makundi hayo yanamtaka gavana wa Mombasa kuandaa mkutano na maafisa wa polisi katika kaunti hiyo kuzungumzia swala hilo mbali na kuchukua hatua mwafaka. Wakiongozwa na mwenyekiti wa chama cha makundi ya kutetea haki za raia eneo la Pwani Zedekaya Adika, makundi hayo yalitoa wito kwa maafisa wa polisi kuzingatia sheria wanapotekeleza jukumu lao. Shutuma hizo zinafuatia kisa cha Jumamosi iliyopita ambapo wanaharakati wanne wa haki za kibinadamu pamoja na mwanahabari walikamatwa katika bustani ya Uhuru wakati wa hafla ya kuwakumbuka vijana waliopoteza maisha yao wakati wa maandamano ya kupinga mswada wa fedha.
They were denied bail without any compelling reasons. The OCS kept advocates here yesterday and families waiting for over 6 hours, but still failed to respond to our request.
We have noticed what the executive is doing to the youth, and we will not allow this to continue. We will use whatever possible means we have within the law and within the Constitution to ensure the youth express themselves as required under the Constitution.
Tuelekee kule Mombasa ambapo waumini wa kanisa moja huko Mombasa wamegutushwa na ubomozi wa jengo ambako kanisa hilo lilikuwa licha ya kuwepo kwa agizo la mahakama la kusitisha ubomozi huo. Waumini hao wa kanisa la Jesus Touch the World wanadai masaibu yao yalianza pale jengo hilo lilipouzwa mstawishaji mwingine, hata ingawa waliwasilisha kesi mahakamani kupinga uuzaji au ubomozi wa jengo hilo. Mchungaji Amos Mali amesema hawapingi ubomozi wa jengo hilo ila hawakupewa notisi rasmi ya kuhama.
Leo tumeamka na mshangao kubwa sana na tukashtuka. Tukaambiwa kwamba leo tutoke, na kwa maana leo usiku kutakuwa na ubomoaji ya orofa hii. Na mimi nashindwa kuelewa kama ubomoaji ya kisheria inastahili ifanywe usiku.
Now we want the governor himself to come and assist us as the church. He came here to look for votes in our church in 2022. Alikuja kuomba kura kwetu. Sasa yeye ni wakati wake kusimama na sisi.
Suluhisho kuhusu tatizo la ukosefu wa ajira ni kuwasajili vijana katika vyuo vya mafunzo ya kiufundi. Mbunge wa Chesumei Paul Biego amesema taasisi za mafunzo ya kiufundi zinawapa vijana ujuzi wa kuwasaidia kujipatia ajira na riziki. Akiongea alipofungua madarasa kadhaa ya gredi ya 9 yaliyojengwa na hazina ya ustawishaji maeneo bunge yani CDF, Biego aliahidi kufadhili wanafunzi hawangeweza kujiunga na vyuo vikuu. Pia aliwaonya walimu wakuu dhidi ya kuwafukuza wanafunzi wa shule za kutwa kwa kisingizio cha kulipa masalio ya karo, kwani hazina ya CDF tayari imeshughulikia swala hilo.
Any student who has finished Form 4, let us take advantage. Let us take advantage because right now Chesume, we are sponsoring students to go to MSOS. So anybody who is interested in MSOS, you go enroll, uone course gani utachukua.
Mtazamaji, sasa nataka ni kupeleke moja kwa moja kwenye ikulu ya Rais ambapo kulikuwa na kongamano la utekelezaji wa mageuzi katika Umoja wa Afrika yani African Union, na sasa Rais William Ruto anaongea na taifa. Hebu tusikie nini kinajiri.
And to its transformation into a more fit-for-purpose instrument of African renaissance and global positioning. Our shared commitment to reforming the Union is key to unlocking Africa's full potential. A reformed African Union will serve as the bridge to prosperity for all the African people. To this end, we must speak with one voice, act with unity, and remain steadfast in our vision. This retreat has been a defining milestone in our collective journey towards consolidating African Union's institutional reforms, and I am profoundly grateful for the productive deliberations, meaningful exchanges, and critical reflections that have taken place. Together, we have taken stock of our progress, objectively assessed our achievements, and identified areas where we must redouble our efforts. I note that reforming the African Union is not a solitary task, but a complex, interlinked, and shared undertaking that demands our collective resolve. If we pull together in unity and purpose, we shall deliver an efficient, effective, and responsive African Union that is fit to serve the member states and the people of Africa effectively. Throughout our discussions, we have identified key priorities that will shape our focus in the coming months, and today's outcomes represent a crucial step in mobilizing political will, fostering consensus, and building the momentum needed to finalize the remaining aspects of the reform. While commendable progress has been made, much remains to be done. To achieve lasting and impactful change, the African Union Commission Chairperson and the Commission itself, including the Executive Council and the Permanent Representatives Committee, must pull in the same direction and accelerate their efforts to implement what has been agreed upon with speed, precision, and efficiency. I thank the heads of state and government for supporting the establishment of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Institutional Reform. What we agreed today in this retreat is about four critical aspects that to broaden the ownership of the reform process and to enhance the momentum and to provide strategic leadership for the implementation process. We have decided that apart from the champion that was appointed, we need a committee of 5 to drive the implementation of the already agreed reforms of the different agencies, institutions, and organs. Secondly, we also agreed that for a continent with as much potential as Africa, with a population of 1.4 billion people, with the highest resources of energy and natural resources, with the demographic dividend being the youngest continent, a continent that will probably have 25% of the world's workforce in the next 20 years or 25 years, and a continent that will be the largest single market by 2050. With the resources in food production and many other natural resources, it becomes absolutely necessary that stability, peace, and security become a solid cornerstone of the Africa we imagine into the future. And therefore, it is absolutely necessary at this point in time for African Union to reimagine, rethink, reorganize our peace and security architecture. As things stand today, Africa is a big theater of conflict and, unfortunately, terrorism. And our response has been uncoordinated, under-resourced, and not very well planned. Therefore, we have recommended that a high-level panel interrogate our peace and security infrastructure, including the envoys across the continent, the infrastructure around the Africa Union Commission, the Peace and Security Fund, and also the effects of Resolution 2917 that now makes it possible for African-led peace efforts to be funded by the United Nations with a resolution of the United Nations Security Council. Because without and unless we deal with the conflicts in our continent, the threat and ravaging effects of terrorism in our continent, it will become almost impossible to undertake any meaningful investment or development or economic activity in our continent. And therefore, matters of peace and security are existential to us as a continent. It is also important that this retreat discussed the subject of financing for the African Union. We did undertake that we will finance 100% of the operational budget, 75% of the program budget, and 25% of the peace and security budget. But that has not been attained. Again, we have provided a framework, and I will be recommending to the summit of the heads of state and government next month on our suggestions on how we can plug the gaps and provide adequate funding and a mechanism for adequately financing the African Union. The third issue that we have agreed on is the operationalization of the Africa Court of Justice. As we all know, this is what was envisaged in the Constitutive Act of the African Union, and to provide clarity and to exercise judicial authority of the Union. The African Court of Justice and the protocols necessary for its implementation were concluded in 2009, and 16 years later, we have not been able to operationalize. I will therefore be making a recommendation for the operationalization of the African Court of Justice with the appointment of judges so that by June this year, we can have a mechanism for conflict resolution in our continent, especially on disputes between countries, disputes between institutions of the African Union, and a reference for the tribunals that currently exist. Once again, it is a very important forum that we have engaged in that will go all the way to a presentation on the Pan-African Parliament to make it much more accountable, to agree on the election process of members of the Pan-African Parliament, to look at the responsibility of the Pan-African Parliament to enact model laws that will serve the greater interest of the continent and support institutions like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. It will also provide a mechanism for accountability for us as a continent and as a union to hold the executive to account, to hold agencies to account, to provide for a budget-making process, and to provide approvals for purposes of accountability. A fit-for-purpose Africa Union is a necessary imperative at this point in time if the Africa Union has to play the role and speak for the 1.4 billion Africans. We also reflected extensively on the burden of regional conflicts and threats of terrorism on our continent, and it is without a doubt that conflict remains a major obstacle to Africa's development. It must be confronted, and with all the capabilities and urgency that this continent can muster. I welcome this retreat's focus on rebooting Africa's peace architecture by establishing a panel of experts to propose modalities for strengthening the continent's current conflicts response and financing mechanisms. Only when Africa can decisively address the conflicts within our soil including the ongoing grave developments in Eastern DRC and the Sudan, can it stand proud of its liberation. It is for this reason that we have agreed under the framework of the East African Community to convene an urgent extraordinary meeting and summit on the situation in Eastern DRC on Wednesday. I have consulted with heads of state from the East African Community and beyond, and we are all in agreement that now more than ever, it is an existential issue, not just for the people of Eastern DRC, but for this region. The situation in Eastern DRC now demands our collective focus. And as the chair of the East African Community, I will be convening this meeting, as I have said. Once again, I underscore my appreciation and gratitude to the colleagues who attended this meeting, and it was in the spirit of unity, and it characterized all the discussions that we had. And I am very confident that going to Addis, we should be able to make the necessary decisions to move this process forward. Thank you very much. I will take maybe a question or two at most.
Please introduce yourself, the media house you represent, and keep your question as short as possible. Thank you.
Mr. President, my name is Emmanuel Tau from Citizen TV. Did you also discuss about Raila's candidature for AUC? And did the presidents who are here also support him? And how many countries so far are backing Raila Odinga's candidature? Thank you.
That's a subject for another engagement.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Ian Ofula. I'm the Africa Security Correspondent for the BBC. The first question is just a confirmation, and then the main question. First question, you said you're meeting on Wednesday for the East Africa Community Emergency Meeting on the DRC. Can you confirm that President Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame have agreed to meet, and what are their sentiments at the moment? And then the UN, the US, Europe, and have, of course, put out reports saying that Rwandan forces have been at the forefront helping M23 in Goma. Does this complicate your way in finding a solution to the conflict?
Yes, I have discussed the summit meeting for Wednesday, both with President Paul Kagame and President Felix Tshisekedi, and both of them have confirmed their participation in the summit on Wednesday. As for the situation in DRC, it is already very complicated. So the presence of security people from wherever place doesn't add any more complication. It is already too complicated. This is a situation that has festered for 30, 40 years. We've had a UN peacekeeping mission there for the last 20 years. We've had forces from the East African Community in and out. We've had forces from SADC in and maybe out. So there is a complicated situation there. It is my belief that this engagement is absolutely necessary because we do not see, from where I sit, a possibility of a military solution to the challenges that faced Eastern DRC. It was, it is, and I'm sure it will continue to be the case, that engagement, dialogue, consultations is the only viable way out of the situation in DRC. A direct engagement with M23 and all the other stakeholders in the theater in Eastern DRC is a necessity. And getting to understand the issues and possibly the root causes of why this conflict has persisted for many years is a place to start, but we will be willing to listen to all the actors in this space, and it is our hope that we will come out with a way forward that includes a facilitation and a mediation process that will bring the parties to this conflict on board and to see how to process the issues that inform this conflict in a manner that gets us to the solution. Thank you very much.
Na mtazamaji, huyo alikuwa Rais William Ruto akiwa ameongoza hafla ya kongamano kuhusu marekebisho ya kitaasisi ya Jumuiya ya Afrika, ambapo amegusia tu masuala kadhaa ambao wamekubaliana na marais ambao wamefika katika ikulu ya rais hapo Nairobi, ambapo amesema kuwa kuna kamati ya watu 5 ambayo inakusudiwa kubuniwa ili kusaidia kutumiza hizi marekebisho ambayo siku hii ya leo wamelidadafua. Swala nyingine ambalo ameliongelelea Rais William Ruto ni usalama na amani katika Afrika nzima, akisema kuwa ni lazima tukabiliane na tishio lolote ambalo litaharibu ama litavuja amani wa Afrika nzima. Swala ambalo rais ameliugusia sana pia ni mfumo wa ufadhili, pia utekelezaji wa mahakama ya muungano wa Afrika, akisema kuwa mahakama ambayo ilibuniwa miaka 16 iliyopita bado ingali haijafanya ama haijatekelezwa kuwa mahakama ya muungano wa Afrika. Rais pia aliulizwa swali tu kuhusiana na migogoro inayoshuhudiwa kule nchi ya DRC, akisema kuwa amebaini kuwa rais wa Rwanda Paul Kagame na rais wa DRC mwenzake wa DRC watahudhuria mikutano ya dharura ambayo amesema kuwa ataongoza siku ya Jumatano ijayo. Tutakuwa wenye kukuletea, mtazamaji, ni taarifa ambayo tutakuwa tukuletea hapo baadaye kwa lugha ya Kimombo, na kwa taarifa za saa 1 tutakuwa wenye kukuletea taarifa hizo. Mtazamaji, kufikia hapo sina budi ila kulikuja jamvi la Kurunzi Mashinani alasiri hii ya leo. Nasema shukrani sana kwa wale wote waliofanikisha taarifa hizi. Shukrani nyingi zaidi ziende kwako wewe mtazamaji kwa muda wako. Lensa Odingo amenisaidia kupeperusha taarifa hii kwa ishara. Mimi ni Khaleed Abdullahi. Kwaheri.
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. They don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
team is really full of hidden talents.
Sir, thank you. In fact, it was completed step by step, under my guidance.
You can't just neglect your health. No matter how hard we work, we're still just employees. You said before that you wanted to prove yourself to Chief. But if you collapse first, how can you slap his face?
I have had enough. Why do they always say that we are the perfect match, the ideal couple? You have to admit that you can still live well without me.
Oh my, you're better than I thought.
Oh my, you're worse than I thought. Ha! Where does he keep going?
This is too easy. I expected more from you. Huh.
Clock! Behind you!
Looking out for your friend, eh?
Mr. Newton!
Not on my watch. Huh.
Are you all right?